Hi guys, my mom made this video for you to study.
Good day, everyone. In this video, we'll be talking more about economic globalization. So, as we have discussed already in our previous video, we know already a lot about economic globalization. And to summarize it, we can say that economic globalization is the spread of transportation and communication systems on a global scale in the interest of promoting international commerce. So when talking about economic globalization, there are actually two different types of economies that we have to know about. So the first type is protectionism and the second is trade liberalization. Okay, so again, it's protectionism and trade liberalization. So when we say protectionism, guys, it's actually it's more on protecting one's economy from foreign competition by creating trade barriers. Whereas when we say trade liberalization, it is the act of reducing trade barriers in order to make international trade easier between countries or from one country with other countries. So these trade barriers are usually tariffs, which are required fees on imports or exports. So this means that if, let's say, for instance, a, a certain product, for instance, a laptop, okay, or yeah, let's have a laptop as an example, okay. If a laptop costs $100 in country A, but then country B has a uh, $15 tariffs on the laptop. So that particular laptop would become $15 in country B. So the tariffs would determine also the specific price of that particular product. So for instance, in Canada, tariffs on food is a very good example of protectionism because Canada places high tariffs on foods like their dairy products. But on the other hand, if the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement between Canada and the European Union established, Canada would have a trade liberalization when it comes to importing of goods or most particularly in importing foods. Okay, so since the world that we live in is globalized, the majority of the countries tend to side more with the trade liberalization than protectionism. So we have to understand that we have to embrace trade liberalization because it would provide us with more more resources in which these resources has a scarcity in our nation or in our country. So there are actually various ways a country can make trade easier with other countries, and these are free trade, trade bloc, and lastly, outsourcing. So let us discuss one by one what free trade is, what trade bloc is, and also what outsourcing is, and what are their differences as well. So when we say free trade, which is actually the trading of goods or services between two or more countries without tariffs or taxes. So this is one of the many ways a country can make trading easier. In fact, on March 11, 2014, Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper and South Korea President signed the Canada-Korea Free Trade Agreement, which made Canada remove 98.7% of its tariffs on importing goods from Korea, like Kia cars and the Hyundai cars, while Korea, on the other hand, are removing 98.2% of its tariffs from imported Canadian goods like beef. So you might think that Canada is at loss for 0.05%, but not really, considering if they really are in need of those imported goods and imported products from Korea. So now let's talk another way to make trade easier, and it is to create a trade bloc, which is an agreement that is being made between governments, okay, between one country and another country to reduce or eliminate trade barriers. So, for instance, in Canada and United States and Mexico, these countries are a part of the North American Free Trade Agreement, or that is what we commonly known as NAFTA, which makes them a trade bloc because of the goods and services that can easily be exchanged to and from each other's country's borders. So NAFTA was actually created in 1989. Of course, we know already what the purpose of NAFTA is, which is to make trade bloc because of the goods and services must be exchanged easily to and from one's country. So the borders restrictions are being limited. So there. So again, NAFTA was created in 1989 with only Canada and the States as trading partners. But on January 1st, 1994, Mexico joined, creating the official NAFTA. So since NAFTA is a free trade agreement and also a trade bloc, it eliminates trade barriers between the North American countries to increase investments opportunities and also to establish procedures to reduce trade disputes. So recently, on Feb 20, 2014, there was a gathering that was held in honor of the 20th anniversary of NAFTA. And one of the big discussion topics that arose were about the Keystone Extra Large Pipeline. So the creation of NAFTA has actually caused manufacturing jobs develop nations like in Canada or in the United States to transfer to the developing nations like Mexico. And the reason for that is in order for them to reduce the cost of products, because in developing nations like Mexico, they have less government regulations and also cheaper labor. So actually it's actually happening here also in our country. We have also this kind of agreement between Japan. And so companies and industries from Japan were establishing also are extending their companies here in the Philippines, most particularly the one that is near to the airport in Cebu City. We have the MAPS 1 and MAPS 2. They call it Mactan Express Processing Zone. I forgot the letter, but it is something like that. So the same arrangement with NAFTA. The developed country is providing they are providing employment, at the same time outsourcing labor from other country for the reason that they could have a cheaper labor, and it is made available or it is made possible due to the government's regulations. So again, the process is called outsourcing. So another example when we say outsourcing is between the United States, okay, and Mexico. Actually, United States had already outsourced approximately $781,000 jobs to Mexico way back in 2010. And it was quite easy to transfer all these jobs because of the free trade agreements and because also of the presence of trade blocs. So if you could recall, there was this issue during Trump's administration. A lot of people are clamoring to have their jobs back. They said, give to Americans what belongs to America. They were actually referring to the jobs that were given to or that were being outsourced to other countries because there were at the time there was already a high rise of unemployment in the US. But the reason why it happened, it's because, having companies, they mean business, and so they mean profit. And for them to get a higher profit is actually for them to have this what we call this cheap labor and also less cost on their raw materials. So that is free trade bloc, and outsourcing. Now, let us talk about another important things that I know we were able to discuss this in our previous video, but I would just like to expound it now so that we could have an in-depth understanding or a better knowledge of these things, because economic globalization is actually a very complex process. So we have to thoroughly understand everything so that we could really appreciate and value the presence of economic globalization. So as I was saying, we will now be talking about all three organizations that were very significant. And these are actually the World Bank, the World Trade Organization, and the International Monetary Fund. Now, these are, as I've said, very significant organizations when it comes to trading. Okay, so all three organizations were created because of the Bretton Woods Conference that was held in July 1st to 22nd, way back in 1944. But the World Trade Organization was actually officially established on January 1st, 1995, when it replaced the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. So I know that you know these already because we have discussed this one already in the previous video. So the World Bank, the World Trade Organization, and the International Monetary Fund, actually they have many similarities, but when it comes to their intended purposes, even if they have the similarities, they also have differences. Okay, so all three supports the expansion of international trade. They discourage protectionism, and they also prevent conflicts that may lead to another world war. But there are also significant differences. So what are these differences? When we say the World Bank, it increases growth, and also it reduces poverty in developing countries in a variety of different ways. So an example is their investment in education way back 1962 in developing nations like the Bangladesh, also in Chad, and also in Afghanistan. Now, when we say International Monetary Fund, they actually provides short-term loans to countries when an emergency occurs, like when Yemen received $93 million from the IMF way back April 5, 2012, due to Yemen's ongoing struggle with terrorism. Now, the World Trade Organization, it differs because it deals more with the rules of trade between nations, and also it deals with settling trading disputes, and also not just trading disputes, it includes the conducts and the negotiations of tradings as well. So in May 2013, Japan and European Union brought a case to the World Trade Organization regarding and unfair renewable energy services that is being offered in Ontario. Therefore, the World Trade Organization ruled that Ontario was found guilty of discriminating against the foreign renewable energy from the energy firm. So although these organizations have many benefits, okay, they also have many drawbacks as well. So let's take a look at the World Trade Organization as an example. So when the World Trade Organization solves trade disputes between countries in a peaceful way, however, only focusing on the developed nations, increases economic disparity all around the world. So the world trade also lowers the costs of goods and services for those who live in the developed countries. However, in order to achieve these low costs, labor rights and environmental concerns are usually ignored. And these low costs, labor rights, and environmental concerns are actually the issues and the concerns which belongs to or which are actually happening in the developing countries. So that is why there is a drawback because, as I mentioned a while ago, the World Trade Organization solves trade disputes between countries in a peaceful way, however, only focusing on the developed nations. It is actually very sad, but it is very true, and it is actually happening even up to now, even up to the very present. Okay, so one of the biggest issues that was created by economic globalization is the issues regarding the environment. So when we say issues regarding the environment, it has something to do with the sustainability or degree to which the earth can provide resources for human needs and human needs, which is, you know, one of the main concerns. So an example of increasing sustainability of oil and gas is to use more renewable resources like the wind power or the solar power. So specifically, the developing world is in a way where the needs of the present day generations are met while, you know, preserving resources for the future generations. So this is what we call as sustainable development. Okay. Another method to making the earth sustainable is what we call as stewardship. So when we say stewardship, ladies and gentlemen, it is actually as easy as taking responsibility of the earth's resources to the future generations. So, you know, so that it's actually being cautious, being responsible, okay, in using the earth's resources right now so that the future generations will be able to have access to them as well. So it's like preserving so that the next gen will still be able to have, to experience, and to savor these resources that we have right now. Okay, so another thing that we can do about sustainable development is actually the one that they called as knowledge economy. Okay, so way back 2014, they have this Globe 2014 Summit, which was, you know, the North America's largest international environmental business summit, which was held during March 26 to March 28, 2014 in Vancouver, Canada. So now that what we now know that what one can do to grow economically while also keeping in mind that the sustainability of the Earth's resources. Okay, so we are all worried, okay, because we are actually experiencing the climate change. We are all affected with that one, and that is because due to the economic globalization. Okay, so again, as I mentioned, because of the Globe 2014 summit, okay, we now have the knowledge economy. So they said knowledge economy may be the answer where individuals or businesses that use education, research, innovative ideas, and informative technologies for a variety of constructive purposes can actually increase how would I say this one? Okay. Due to the usage of research and innovative ideas and informative technologies, okay, we can come up with a variety of constructive purposes that can increase the wealth and prosperity of our nation while at the same time keeping the environment safe. So it's like developing and being progressive at the same time, keeping our environment the way as it is. Okay, so we have to keep our environment safe. We have to preserve Mother Earth. Okay, so the very cool thing about the knowledge economy is that it directly applies to us, to each one of us. So by learning about economic globalization, we are able to find out the very issues that surround this topic, and we think critically, and so we come up with a solution to the various problems that we face, and eventually, of course, we take actions in order to contribute to the globalization in a positive way, not just harboring progress and wealth that our environment can offer. We are also returning to the environment what we have gotten from them by taking good care and by preserving our environment. So there. Now, of course, we've been talking a lot already, the drawbacks of economic globalization. Now, let us also talk about the positive effects of economic globalization. Because of globalization, we are now having the following: globalization of trades of goods and services. We have globalization of financial and capital markets. We have globalization of technology and communication, and we have globalization of products, in which we're all having the convenience and the comfort of acquiring these things with ease and in a very right or just price. Okay, and at the same time, okay, let us just bear in our minds that with progress comes regress as well. So we have to be very cautious all the time in embracing these developments. So as what former US President Bill Clinton says in a quote, no generation had the opportunity as we have now. So to build a global economy that leaves no one behind. So it is a wonderful opportunity, but also a profound responsibility. So that's it about economic globalization. I hope that you now have a very comprehensive knowledge and a deep understanding of what economic globalization is. Thank you for watching this video and stay safe, everyone.